And I said this, Rob, a week and a half ago, that if I were the Nets and Kyrie Irving refused to get vaccinated, I would send him away for the whole season. Now, if he gets vaccinated in November and January, whenever, then by all means, we welcome you back with open arms. But until he gets vaccinated or until New York would change its law, then I said, you got to send him away, period. And it doesn't have to be mean-spirited, not a banishment. Just, Kyrie, we're trying to win a championship, and you being in and out of the lineup, not practicing all the time. I know he can practice some now in New York, but that's not conducive to us building chemistry, continuity, and the defined roles that we're going to need to beat the best teams in the NBA. And the Nets came out today, Rob, and it looks like Joe Tsai, the owner, and Sean Marks, the GM, at least according to Marks, they are the ones that made the decision, and they did exactly as I said they should. They sent Kyrie away. Here's Marks talking about it.
This process is, I think all of you guys are pretty well aware of. It's been going on for a while now, and we've been bringing all the information to a head here. And I think this is a decision that ultimately Joe Tsai and myself made. We, as always, involve a lot of people in this, but this decision came down to the two of us, and it's what's best for the organization at this point in time.
All right, Rob, what are your thoughts?
No, I mean, I thought that they did the right thing. You just can't have it. And I think, because, I've mentioned this a few times to you, right? Pat Riley, when I was covering the Knicks, in New York, and I mean, as a columnist, I remember him just saying to the Knicks, the whole thing was either you're in or you're out. Like, which one are you? You can't be a half a foot in, half a foot out. The Nets would be setting themselves up for a terrible fall by allowing a guy to be part-time and then not play. Imagine if they made it to the finals and they had 4 games in Brooklyn and then he couldn't play in those, or some big series and you needed him and you're down in the series. He can't play because that game's on the road. What does it say to his teammates that he gets special treatment because they're allowing him to do this? You couldn't do it. You got to make sure that everybody is giving their all and everybody's in for the same goal, which is to win a championship. We saw people give up, and I applauded people who decided to go into the bubble and stay away from their families for 3 months. That's not natural, Chris.
Right.
You weren't sealed
Had to
off.
be incredibly tough.
Right. You weren't sealed off in the side of a mountain and couldn't get to your family. You chose to play basketball and not see your family for a few months.
Right.
That is an ultimate sacrifice. God forbid someone in your family or your wife or your grandmother or your mother got, something happened to them. You would hate yourself. You know what I mean? Like it's a big, you can't take that for granted. Oh yeah, I'll see you in 3 months and everything will be great. No. So it's a sacrifice. And if you're asking all the players to make a sacrifice to bring a championship to Brooklyn for the first time since the Dodgers won a World Series, and you got the team and you got everybody in place, and one guy is not on board, then you got to, that ship sails without that one guy until he's ready to be on board. Bravo to the Nets. They did the right thing. Kyrie's a great player. I love to watch him play. I thought he was fantastic last year before he got hurt, Chris. And him on that team makes them an even more overwhelming favorite. I still like that team even without him, because in the NBA you need 2 stars basically, and 3 is a luxury. So Brooklyn did what it had to do, and I'm fine with it.
Rob, I love the team without him. I am not convinced that they can't be just as good without Kyrie. And I think I'm even in the minority here when I say I think Kyrie's a first ballot Hall of Famer. His numbers are tremendous. He's the best ball handler in NBA history. I know that may not mean anything as far as getting into the Hall of Fame.
He is, though.
But he's a tremendous finisher, one of the best guards we've ever seen, point guards at least, finish at the rim.
It's unbelievable.
He's hit
arguably,
Rob, the biggest shot in NBA history, arguably.
Yeah.
It's certainly one of them. And so Kyrie is a tremendous player, but just throwing together a bunch of talent And it worked last year. I'm not acting like it
If
didn't
they didn't
work.
get hurt, Chris,
Right.
they would have won.
You're obviously losing talent.
Right.
But I'm just saying they still have enough talent, and if they have the chemistry and the health, they can win the championship. They're not as overwhelming of a favorite. You know, them in Milwaukee will be a war. Them in if the Lakers ever get it together, we see Russ throwing the ball all over the place in the preseason. But, you know, the Lakers that presumably would be a war. There are a lot of talented teams. But James Harden, Kevin Durant,
you know what
not
I mean?
at all.
Right. It
not
wouldn't
at
exclude
all.
them like, oh, without him, they have no shot to win.
No. I mean, honestly, and I want your opinion, Rob. Kyrie is the third best player on that team.
Right.
He's not better than Durant and Harden. Do you agree with that?
No, not at this point.
Yeah.
No, with what Harden can do, and if he's healthy, he's one of those guys. But it's the icing on the cake, though. If you have him and you want him, you know what I mean. Sure, you.
Right.
Last year,
especially
what did we talk
if you can play a whole year together and really develop chemistry.
And he was 50, 40, 90, Chris, last year. 50 from the field goals, 40 from three, and 90 from the free throw line. I mean, who wouldn't take that?
He was great. He was great. Well, a lot of people wouldn't take it because of the other things.
Right.
And it ain't just the vaccination. You know, there's a lot that comes with Kyrie. A lot of baggage, a lot of things you have to deal with, a lot of drama. He is the epitome of high maintenance. And that's something the Nets aren't going to have to worry about either. The one place, Rob, that I don't 100% know the answer to this, but the one thing that concerns me about the Nets without Kyrie is that Durant is certainly clutch. Kyrie is certainly clutch. I'm not certain about James Harden. And I'm about as big a Harden fan as there is.
That's fair
he's had some, right?
Because he hasn't done it, yeah.
Well, he's done it here and there. He's had some really good playoff games and big games, put up big numbers, but he's had at least as many, probably more, just outright clunkers in the biggest moments.
Right.
And Rob, I thought even in Game 7 against Milwaukee last year, that toward the end of the game in overtime, he faded and disappeared. And I get it, the hamstring was banged up, and I'm going to credit some of it to the hamstring.
Yeah, he just seemed like a shell of himself by that point in the game, and he really couldn't add anything.
He could have been a decoy. He could have set Durant up. He had 22, 9, and 9.
Yeah.
So he played well throughout the game, but then at the end, he just gave it to Durant and said, go take us, big fella, and went over there with the rest of the Nets and watched. And I needed him to have a little more superstar swagger. I don't know, was that just the hammy, or was it a combination of the hammy and his fading in the clutch? That's the one thing. I think he liked the fact that I got not only Durant to take the big shot, I got Kyrie.
No,
and so I don't have to worry about it, right?
Him, right. I'm sure they want him.
Yeah, so that's the only question I have about them without Kyrie. And I trust that Harden can overcome that, but I want to see it. So
let's start out with Marty in Kentucky. You're on the Odd Couple, Fox Sports Radio. What up, Marty?
What's up, fellas? I just want to throw a shout-out real quick to your nephew who's listening. I saw him crossing you up on your vacation. I'm glad he didn't get his basketball skills from his uncle.
You did see that video.
You're right about that.
That's right. That was down in Virginia, Marty. Very good. You got a good memory.
Yeah, he looked good with them handles. A lot better than you look when you brag about dominating that Hall of Famer that was like, 40-something years
Nancy
old.
Lieberman. Hey, I scored the first 2 baskets in that game. I did. All right.
And those were the only 2 you scored, right?
I'll pay attention. All right, fellas, I'll get on the subject. I think the Nets made the right choice, but behind closed doors, we really don't know what the choice is. I mean, let's get real. Kyrie's not a big fan of playing 82 games. We know that. He does not have a history of being healthy in the playoffs. In fact, I would guess that he's been unhealthy in the playoffs more often than he's been healthy. There's actually
4 years he's been banged up.
Yeah, he was drafted the same year that Thompson was.
Marty, I'm going to say this. I think you're off base.
What is Marty saying?
I haven't even got to my point.
What's his point?
Your point is this is like a game plan, so he doesn't have to play that many games, and then he'll come
what if
in.
he jumps in? after All-Star
but I
break
don't.
says,
I believe that he's an anti-vaccine guy. I don't believe this is some concocted plan so that he doesn't play, Chris. The first.
No,
I don't have an
agree with you,
opinion
Rob.
on that.
I agree.
I don't. Yeah, I think you're probably right, but I'm.
Did we lose him?
Chris?
Oh, we lost.
You see what I
Martin.
was saying? That's why I jumped in.
No, I want to hear his point, but
Yeah.
I agree. Yeah, I don't buy that. Now, if he's saying, I don't think this is any plan by the Nets or Kyrie, but if he comes back in March and is able to play throughout the playoffs, I don't think that was the plan, but it will work for the Nets,
out.
right?
But
yeah, it could work out.
But I believe Kyrie's an anti-vaccine person. Do you know? I
well,
believe.
here, let me read this, Rob, because Sham Charania, who obviously drops a lot of news for the NBA, he wrote this just within the last half an hour.
Okay.
Multiple sources with direct knowledge of Irving's decision have told The Athletic that Irving is not anti-vaccine and that his stance is that he is upset that people are losing their jobs due to vaccine mandates. It's a stance that Irving has explained to close teammates. To him, this is about a grander fight than the one on the court, and Irving is challenging a perceived control of society and people's livelihood, according to sources with knowledge of Irving's mindset. It is a decision that he believes he is capable to make given his current life dynamics. Kyrie wants to be a voice for the voiceless, one source said.
Okay.
I'm with Kyrie on one thing. There are a lot of things that, as far as control of people's freedoms and things like that I don't agree with kind of going on in this society. But the notion that Kyrie is trying, I don't buy this notion that he's like making himself a martyr for people that are losing their jobs and stuff for the vaccine mandates and things like that.
Chris,
I don't really buy it.
Mandates in this country go way back. I was telling you the story that I was reading in the New York Times, back to George Washington, where they mandated vaccines for the Army in the 1700s, where they were forced, or you couldn't, be in the military. So this is not a new phenomenon or new thing at all.
Not as far as vaccines.
I'm just talking about the vaccine situation. Right. So this is not new at all. Tori in Columbus, Georgia, you're on The Odd Couple, Fox Sports Radio. What's up, Tori?
Yeah, how y'all doing, Christian? Well, a long time listener, first time calling in a long time, but
thank you, buddy.
I get straight to it. I love y'all show, man. Yeah, I've been listening to y'all. I'm listening to Fox Radio since Vic the Break.
Wow. Thank you, man. We appreciate you. What you got?
But straight to the point. I love it for the culture and I love it for the net because you're doing this because, first of all, people out there in America, you vax to win. That's it. You vax to win. We can eliminate this if we get vaccinated. Hands down. And that's my point.
Well, we can lessen the...
Kyrie, get vaccinated, son. Get vaccinated.
All right, Tori, I hear you. I mean, what was I listening to the news in L.A., and they were saying California, at least 85% of the people now, Chris, have had at least one shot, something like that.
Yeah,
that's
something like that.
It's that high in California. It's pretty amazing. And, of course, the cases here have plummeted. But anyway, thanks, Tori. We appreciate your support. How about Steve in Seattle? You're on The Odd Couple, Fox Sports Radio. What's up, Steve?
Hey, guys, thank you. I really enjoy your show always, and thanks for your comments and everything.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I think that I knew Kyrie's grandfather many years ago, and this is just speculation, but I think that because he is so anti-everything now these days, after his grandfather's death, he has just seemed to come off the edge a little bit, and I think that, number one, I think that the Nets are going to do just fine, but I think that he's just anti for a reason. I'm not sure why that is, but it's just kind of sad to hear. You know what I mean?
No, I hear you. And obviously that was
a lot of stuff. Yeah, he's been a nay.
Yeah. So and a lot of it's happened since his, I know it was tough on him. We all read about that when his grandfather died.